Hello, everyone. Hope all is well. So, the amount of good things in your life depends on your ability to notice them. Interesting. The amount of good things in your life depends on your ability to notice them. That's something positive for this week. Hi, everyone. Okay, so the reason I do this is because many people in the world are a little bit in the wrong thinking, only on negative side of the world. The wars that's going on, maybe people losing their job of AI technologies, etc. So we have to put some positive things to the world so that it can be replicated and be it's a ripple effect or butterfly effect, whatever you believe in. So for this week, it's very important because the warm weather is coming around the world, most of them, and then you can see that the sun is still shining. So why I put this quote that someone quoted is that the amount of good things in your life depends on your ability to notice them. Is because let's not kid ourselves, right? So when you were born, there's so many things until these days. It's still the history. People always say learn from history, which is true because they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhymes. So we have been here before, and how on earth can we then, as human beings, move forward? Because that is the also that I like to share with you that we have to master our mind daily. Um, so on the positive side is that young people always have this great futuristic optimism, which give me a lot of hope, and that's why we have to also as adults in the room um, try to spin the positive side what there is in this world, because most of the things it's not that bad that you see because of the world, the news, etc. That keep people up and going only about how cruel people are. In reality, if you try to talk to another person, it becomes such a wonderful conversation. Before I go any further, I like to share with you a story, a very short one. Today, for example, in the subway, there was a very not very old, but a great gentleman around his 60s, because he later told the woman, I was just eardropping when I was reading a book, and this phenomenal book that I'm reading now, The Split, in during the train trip. So by the way, that is amazing because he was sitting there and he was calling someone. And after he was finished his call, he saw an old lady, older than him, of course, in her 80s, I think, if I'm guessing right. And they're two different culture. So let me put a scene forward. Is that the guy was sitting there, and he's from India, yeah, originally born there, and the woman that stands up, it's a Hong Kong um, Asian. So it's amazing that he was asking the old lady. Oh, he stood up and say, "Go ahead, sit down." And the old lady just say, "No, young man." He just even called her a young man. You sit down. And he laughed and he sat down and he says, "She said, I need only two more stops, then I need to go. So you can sit down." And then it's amazingly that the conversation then started. Then he says, then she asked him, then, where you're from, because here's Hong Kong, and he says, I'm from India. When I was in my 20s, I came to Hong Kong to study and work, and now he got married and get kids. Now he's in his 60s, etc. So he's been in Hong Kong for 40 plus years. And the woman asked him, "Do you speak Cantonese?" And he uttered a few Cantonese words. And it's a beautiful conversation. So long story short is, I don't want to, uh, eardrop too much as well because it's none of my. You will say it's none of my business, but it's beautiful to see that there is still this kind of human to human connections, this optimism. So then the woman basically told her story that she was born and raised in Hong Kong, and she never really go to other countries. Maybe she's told in mainland one or two times, and for the rest of her life in the 80 years in Hong Kong. So they were talking. This was phenomenal. And then after one stop, then the guy has to go, and then the woman say, "Nice to meet you. Hope you see you again." And then they sit down. That's it. Why I tell you this story is because that's a good side of life, right? That once we put down our phone and really, have a human connections, a little bit, start a conversation. We call it ice breaking, right? Like, hey, you want to sit down or anything? And it's not about flirting, but it's really about human to human connection to talk to each other, regardless race, religion, etc. And that's why I like about where I come from, the country called Suriname, South America. For those that doesn't know, it's about Brazil. It's a beautiful country, and multiculturalism is also thriving. So it's possible to work with each other regardless where you come from. Don't look at the color of your skin, the things that you believe in, the religion. And if you put all aside, all of us are the same people. Like I said in my previous episodes, that we drink water from the same source, we breathe the same air, and the only thing that separate us are the politicians that try to divide us, because then we fight with each other instead of focusing on what truly matters, like the economy, the jobs, and those kind of stuff. So that's the reason why I think positive side of the world is we have to focus on the good thing instead of the bad too much, the negative stuff. A good example here also is focusing on the progress. For example, then life will start moving. But if you focus, for example, on something negative, like I have to do this, it's a lot of pressure, then like life will definitely feels like awful, very heavy, right? Same situation, but a different way of thinking. So I would like to say that this is a great analogy also, that today's what I've seen, and especially when we born in this world with like a negative thoughts, we have to the thoughts you cannot pick, that's serious, but what you can do is basically choose your thoughts. And the reason is because thoughts comes and goes, right? So most of us has like thousands of thoughts from yesterday, the day before yesterday, etc. So we don't control our thoughts. And there is a famous quote that's also, "You become what you think about most of the time," which is true. But there's some other thoughts that we cannot control. So the thoughts that we cannot control, we have to try to not to take it as truth. Most of the people think that think about something and they think that it's me or that is the truth. No, 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 be careful with that. So your thoughts are your thoughts, but it came to you like a cloud. You have to see yourself as a sky. Then you see the cloud, something come to you. It's like maybe you think it's not so cloudy or dark or anything. Just let the darkness or the cloud pass by and don't focus too much on that. And then pay more observe be more like observant instead of attention focusing on the thoughts you think. So that will help, hopefully. It helps me over the time that I've learned that I am not my thought, that you're not your thought. But what I mean is that you become what you think about most of the time, that people, a lot of books write about it, is just that if you want to achieve a goal, there's time for that as well. So let's say there is a goal that you want to achieve, like a good friend of mine that later has a competition. Then he has to train his muscle, his body for a marathon or something. Then you have to have a goal, right? Then your thinking is always put a headphone on and then focus on thinking about that part. But once it's done in a couple of hours of training, then you have to let go, because otherwise you will be having a burnout. The reason why many people has this negative is like a weed in your garden. If you don't cultivate your garden, or at your house, is a lot of people in Hong Kong doesn't have a garden. And if you clean it, if you don't clean it up by yourself, you let other people clean it. What happens is that you become lazy, of course, but you forget about that you are also responsible for cleaning the house, instead of your helper or your other people that you think is responsible for that. You have to be responsible for cleaning your house. Yeah, right. Because the grass is always greener at your neighbor that you think, but you have to take care of your own stuff first. All right. So that's I think the very beautiful quote for today. One of the second one that I will not bore too much is the book that I always like to recommend to people who wants to achieve goals. Of course, there's always a time for that. And by the way, I like about Dr. Wayne Dyer that says there's a time for everything. Right? Yeah, there's a time for sadness. Sometimes you need to stop if something goes on with the life of your family members or friends or even your pets that died, maybe, or whatever. So then there's also time for that. There's time for love, kindness, and there's like a time for everything. But in order for us to have that kind of time, is we have to drop our phone and spend time with the things that you think that matters for you. But because by the end of your life, you don't want to say I spend a lot of time at my office, or I spend a lot of time on my phone. So please try that, then you will see that your life will never be the same again. So back to that quote about whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. Just to think about it, the conceive, believe, and achieve, CBA, right, is the opposite of ABC. So if you remember that, then for the rest of your life, most of the goals that you want to achieve can be. Some goals takes more time, like maybe a few years. Some goals is short term. Like I give you an example, like the friend of mine who wants to do a marathon soon. So there is a goal to conceive, and you have to believe. That means you have to put some action in it, that you have to train it, like think about it every day and a few hours, not every day. So I mean, what I mean is a few hours being dedicating to it, the focus, and then let it go. Then you will achieve it. So whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. It's very important. That's why I like about asking a lot of. That's why I put my title changing now from Mr. QQ to QQ Matrix, and now to Master Your Mind Daily. Because I think now we have to do that, because we're living in a world with a lot of news that is negative. By the way, if news is too much negative for you, switch it off. Yes, I know, sounds weird. Long time ago, we had those physical newspaper that we watch. The old people of us, then now digital world, too much information is also disinformation, and then people got confused about what to believe and what not to. But anyway, in Dutch we say geen nieuws is good news. So meaning that if there's no news, then it's good news. Because most of the time people like to publish negative stuff because that sells, right? If you give a headline that's it, oh, something happened, oh, something here. And that's the reason why that sells more, the paper that they want to sell or the subscription that they want you to do. But luckily, we have this kind of streaming now. Then most of the people, have is democratized. That means that we don't have this kind of mass media anymore. So you are your own responsible person to decide what kind of things you want to put in and what kind of things you want to block. So that's a good thing I like about this world now, that everything is trying to be democratized, and we have to filter out. That's the hardest one, by the way, to filter out uh, what is truth and what not, because the AI technology makes a lot of things, fake, and pictures or videos nowadays, even videos. So we have to be careful what to watch, because some of them can pollute our mind. Anyway, so I want to leave you with these two quotes for this week. Positive thinking. All right. So don't give up hope. If anything you want to achieve in life, go for it. There is a time for it as well. There's time for to go action, and there's time for peace to rest. All right. and you are not your thoughts. Okay, so don't think that okay, something happened to me or some with your family or something, and no, 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 there is this too shall pass. This I'm not a religious person, but I'm a I believe that there is an almighty, regardless what kind of name people want to put around it. I'll tell you guys another day for another story about this. But this too shall pass, meaning that if there's something negative, or this too will shall pass, or something that is you like and you, this will never last, you hope it will never last, but this too also shall pass. All right. So try to focus your attention on the things, the positive sides of daily, so that you also don't be discouraged. Okay, because be optimistic. That's the best of. Look at a child, and look at the pets or anything that you found very optimistic. Music that you want to listen, your favorite musicians or singer. I love it, like Mariah Carey, Celine Dion. I like to listen to those optimistic music. Maybe it's not your choice of music, but listen to instrumental music also maybe, and go to out for nature. Don't stream. Don't look at your phone or your office too much. And if you have your office break for half an hour or 1 hour, or even more, 2 hours, some of the companies allow that, go outside to the nature, walk on the grass with your barefoot, not on shoes, because everything is nowadays covered with slipper, with plastic. And then you try to inflammatory your heart will be much better. uh, yeah, pet a dog, a cat, hug your parents, hug your kids as much as you can, and your partner, or anyone, your friends, whoever, hug. We also miss that. Most of us are nowadays too busy with your phone, like I said in previous episode. So take good care, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye.